How's it going, folks? My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT, and today we're back with another live stream. I wanted to take people on a little Octatrack trip and explain the dual bus concept. This doesn't necessarily only apply to an Octatrack, it's just really easy and effective on an Octatrack. You can do this with lots of different performance style mixers. Performance style mixers, I guess is the way to put it. But it's very relevant on the Elektron Octatrack, and it's something that I really love to do and I use for live performance every time I play, and I have for many years. And I've been sharing these ideas with people on this YouTube channel and on my Patreon forever, and I'm going to do it again now. It's been a while since we took a look at it, and I'm in the process of building out a new performance template, and as the years have passed and my experience has grown, I've come up with more ideas on what I think is the most usable style of effects or usable routing concepts or the best way to do live resampling and transition to another song or a part in your music. And I'm going to talk about all that stuff today for probably like 2 hours. So if you're really interested in live hardware electronic music and you're kind of avoiding the computer, or you happen to have an Octatrack and you don't know what to do with it, this is a great use for your Octatrack. Or if you have an Octatrack, you do know what to do with it, and you're looking for some insight on how to use it effectively as a live performance mixer, today's your lucky day. We're going to dive into this, and I'm going to talk you through this idea of turning your Octatrack into a performance mixer explicitly in this particular session on external audio. So this will have nothing to do with playing samples on your Octatrack. This is kind of like my shtick and what I like to do. I like to use the Octatrack as a mixer, and I think that mixer kind of implies that we're like mixing a track. That's not really what's going on. It's a summing mixer with some performance effects and some abilities, I guess is a way to say it, or some techniques that allow you to transition from part to part in different elements of your music or from song to song. And I want to talk you through this process and why I choose certain things as a master clock, how I like to set up a live resampling track, and all of that. So save your questions, because I will be answering questions, but I'm going to kind of like go through the routing and all of that right now. And it's a little bit heady if you haven't used an Octatrack before. The Octatrack is a strange device. It has its own language and its own ideas, and some of them don't necessarily make sense right off the bat, and they're not explained by the developers, but they are there, and I'm going to talk you through them. So let's switch over to the Octacam, as I've never called it. Let's move it here. We're going to start with a brand new project. So we're going to start this from 0 to hero kind of scenario here. We're not going to build out 64 performance effects. That's the kind of thing that I like to do on a performance template, is to have 64 unique effects. I have some ideas that have come across over the years. Let me talk a little bit about how we're going to set things up. So I have this magnetic overlay. This snaps onto my Octatrack. I actually sell these in my shop at modbang.com. And I have a dry erase marker. These are dry erase magnets for this explicit reason, for making effects, or just for labeling your scenes or songs if you had them on Trigs, if you're using slots for tracks, treating this as like a DJ mixer. So originally I used to just kind of make these. If you look at this, there's 64 different names of things on here. It's a ton of effects, right? And I used to just kind of like, I'd keep some things consistent. 9 and 10 was a high pass and a low pass. That's still the same way. And then this would be a master looper. Those things have stayed on all of my template concepts. However, I now think in this way, where I make these groups of 4. They're not necessarily always these ideas. It's not necessarily beat, repeat, stutter effects, stretch effects, and filters. It's just working in groups of 4, and I found it to be really easy. Oh, and track 16 is still a master looper for me, and we'll do the master looper today, or at least we'll talk about the master looper. We'll see if we get that far, because this does take a long time to build up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 4 little sections here, and then this will be my master looper. So this will have 3 effects. And we're going to build, some template stuff. And as we build an effect, we can put in, what it is. This could be a BR for beat repeat at half notes. So it'd be a BR 1/2, right? And I could write that down just so I remember it. And then every part in my Octatrack would have a variation of what I've written down. So it would be basically the same effect, but it would be a different version of it. Maybe it'd be grittier, maybe it would have more modulation on it, maybe, yeah, just basically that. Maybe it would just have a different flavor, right? But it would be the same idea. And this makes it really easy. You can memorize what you do as a live performer. All right, so let's go into a brand new project, and I'll talk you through that. You go Project, Change, and scroll up to the very top, and it says Create Empty Project. There's about 100 projects in here. And we'll call this effects. Yeah, was that the X? Yeah, effects stream. So that I can find it again later if I like what I've done here. And we'll get cracking on this, and we'll talk about why do we want to split the drums and the melody? And why am I seeing this all the time now? You know, I would like to think that I had something to do with that in some way, that I start seeing this a lot in people's performance concepts on Ableton or on a push or on their Eurorack. That'd be awesome if I influenced that in some way. But I don't, it's not necessary that I did. It's just that I think it's a conclusion that you come to after you've been bumping your head enough making effects for your live show. You kind of come to this conclusion where you go, maybe I shouldn't have the same effect on my bass line and my chords as I do on my drums. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe resonance on a low-pass filter doesn't necessarily work very well as I'm crossfading on a part of my music that's already incredibly resonant. Maybe I'm, in my live show, gonna create this massive resonance peak as I'm, you know, driving my crossfader across for a transition. This is why you would split a melody and drum bus into different effects, because they don't always make sense on the same sounds. Now, there are some effects that no matter what, they just work. A high-pass filter with some resonance, you can use that pretty much on your whole bus all the time. You could take a high-pass filter, throw a reverb behind it, or throw a delay behind it, and you could pretty much go play any show with any style of music, and you're gonna be able to, you know, do just fine. You only need the high pass, and the reverb and the delay is just kind of a bonus. But I would say that is the essential effect. Like, you can get away with that, and there's lots of devices that have high pass filters. Even this right here that just came out, even this interface from Korg has a built-in analog high pass low pass filter, which you can set as a high pass low pass filter and go and play a show with this as part of your performance effect if you wanted. There's a lot of different ways you can get away with just a simple performance effect, but fortunately on the Octatrack, you can get incredibly deep with this. There's a bunch of different types of machines in the Elektron language. They use this thing called machines, and machines basically are track types. So in your DAW, you would have an audio track and you'd have a MIDI track. And then you have send tracks and then a master track, right? So there's 4 different track types in a DAW, typically. On an Octatrack, you have many different track types. On a Digitak, you have even more. And then on a Toneverk, you have a whole bunch as well, and a Digatone. So all these Elektron boxes, they have tons of different types of track types, and they do different things. And you have to understand these machines to use these machines, these musical devices, effectively. So the machine that we want to use, since we're going to be processing external audio, we're going to use something called a through machine. What you can do technically, if you just want to hear some music, right? I got some music playing here. We're going to be using this dub techno track that I believe I consider completed. And I really like this track, and I think it's a good demonstration because it's very melodic. So there's lots of melody on the Digatone and nice groovy drums on the Digitak. So this is a great example, I think, to do this. You can see my Octatrack is receiving audio. I could record right now if I wanted, just hit the record button, and a little plus symbol on my static track is going. And, you know, I recorded a little bit of audio. We can take a look at this. And, you know, there it is. There's that audio. I could even audition it. We're in a brand new project. So, like, the Octatrack it's doing stuff already. It just doesn't tell you what it's doing. It's a confusing machine. But if we wanted to hear this, we could just go into our mix menu and I could just turn up the direct to 127. And there's our music, right? And if I wanted to be really lazy about my performance effects and I wanted to use the Octatrack as a part of my arsenal of sounds that are being generated, not just a digitakt digatone in this particular situation, I could use a master track on track 8 and build a very small group of effects on the master track, but I would have 4 parts to do that. So I could still technically have, you know, some simpler performance effects running on that master track, filters and beat repeats. And that would be the most effective use of the master track. We're going to use a bunch of tracks. We're going to use a through, a neighbor, a neighbor, a through, a neighbor, a neighbor, and maybe another neighbor. I don't know. That might be what we're doing. We might go through neighbor, 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 and through neighbor, neighbor. And I'll explain what this means, because I know that's just weird. If you're new to the Octatrack, you're like, what is through? What is he talking about? All these neighbors. Who are these neighbors? And can we trust them? I don't know if we can trust them. We want to use a through machine. Through machine means it processes incoming audio. So I double press my source button. You could also double press your track button, hit the left arrow. That will take you over to the same selection, even though it looks a little different. It's kind of cool that there's 2 different ways to look at it. And you're going to select the through machine, and this is going to be our drum bus input. So we're going to bring audio in through this through machine, and then we're going to process the audio. So I don't want to have my mix, my direct mix turned up anymore. Otherwise we'll get a double of our audio. It will not sound good. We want our track level to be at 127. Otherwise it will attenuate the volume. So your track level is a relative adjustment of all the sound on a current track. So if you bring this down, it's going to bring everything down on the track. Your amp is independent of this, and your amp is meant to be dynamics on your sequencer. So you can parameter lock different volumes with your amp menu. So you want to think about that when you're writing music in the Elektron workflow in general. Track, relative volume, amp, dynamic volume. So I want to have my track level at 127, so 100%. Let's think about it that way, track level at 100%. And I want to actually select inputs A and B, because we're just going to process the drums on this particular insert. So this is our audio is coming through track 1. It's the A and B audio. I could hit play here. And you can see that we're seeing our audio. We need to tell this machine to start functioning, right? This machine is there, but it's not actually thinking yet. So to do that, we need to put down a playback trig. Or we can hold the track and hit play. And there it is. It's quiet though. And that's because we need to actually bring up the volume plus 63 to get back to what would be the same volume as this mix input. And I want to show you something really quick, because this is interesting. As an Octatrack user, as an Elektron user, and it's just strange, right? So listen to how loud this is right now. All right, listen to that, the volume. All right, 0. Much quieter. Now listen to it with the direct turned all the way up, and this turned off. That volume from your direct input is identical to the volume of plus 63 in your through machine. They are the same volumes. So if you're ever wondering why plus 63, that is why. If you used your mix input to monitor your audio, that's the volume you actually want your music to be at, because that's the volume that's coming out of these machines, out of any machine plugged into the Octatrack. The Octatrack takes the volume down 12 decibels. You'll see this if you record some audio and you go into your recorder. Often you'll go here and you look at your attributes and it will say plus 12 dB. There it is, letting you know that the Octatrack knew that it had recorded the audio, reduced the volume, and then it bumped it back up after it got processed through its digital audio converter. So that's what happens. This is just a little insight into the Octatrack. Okay, so let's bring this back down. We just want to hear things at that volume. That's really what I'm getting at. So let's bring this back to A and B, and let's do the same thing on here, because these are going to be our 2 buses. We're going to go drums and process drums over here, and we're going to go melody and process melody over here. We're going to do them separately. We're going to have similar effects, but we're going to treat them a little bit differently so they sound tasteful on both these inputs, and also give us some independent control over, like, if we want to high pass just the drums, or if we want to low pass just the melody. Or we might do that the other way around, honestly, because the low pass sounds pretty good on drums. It can sound a little gross on melodic stuff if you have too much resonance, like I was saying earlier. Another thing that we want to do as we're getting started here, before I start putting triggers down and being all crazy with that, is that I want to give the Octatrack independent track scale. Independent track scale is incredibly important, and I think Elektron should start all projects, please. If you're watching, my friends in Sweden, all the tracks should be set to independent track scale by default. Not from, but by default. Not a master scale. No one uses master scale. In fact, it confuses people. Okay, back at it. So we're going to set up this independent track scaling function pattern to go into our pattern scaling. This is also where you would set up some really obscure stuff that most Octatrack users don't use. And definitely anybody who's using these performance templates is not really navigating into this menu because I've already done it for you. And all I did was change this one setting to scale mode to per track. And this is the same thing you would do on a Digitact or Digatone by going function page and then hitting function yes. And that would switch you over to per track scaling. Cool. So now that we have per track scaling, I can set this track to be whatever track length. We're going to use 64 steps. I think 4 bars is kind of the perfect in between of, I don't know, all the values, all the bar values you could possibly have for live resampling. It's not too long for a live recording. So if you grab like a 4-bar loop of an 8-bar segment, it doesn't sound bad. You know, you can grab the first 4 bars of the 8 bars, you can grab the last 4 bars of the 8 bars. Sounds pretty good to loop that segment. You can also process the audio to kind of give it its own unique and distinct flavor as well, to separate it from what it was originally, so people know that this is different. But also the 4 bars is what a lot of people are writing their music in, right? They're writing a lot of 4-bar music. I personally write in 8 bars, but I like to use 4-bar segments for my live looping, as I'm explaining here. So I'm setting my master to 4 bars right now. The track scale for this track can actually stay at a single bar because we're not going to do anything too unique to this track right now. This is something I might later like go back in and go, I need 4 bars of this because I'm going to have an LFO that ascends for 4 bars as it's modulating a high pass filter or something like that. So then I might actually use the track scale because I want to use the track to tell the LFO when to start and for how long to play. So that would be something I might adjust the track scaling in a performance template manner. So we'll leave it at 1 bar for now. I'm going to put a trigger down on 1. This will tell this track to play. This is your through machine. And right now it'll play the A and B inputs. But if I hit play on my Digitact, which is my master, and then we're going to talk about master clocking here in a second. Let's bring that volume up, right? Plus 63. There we go. We can't hear the Digatone yet. We're not seeing the Octatrack do anything. It's not receiving clock. I like to use the Digitact as my master. It doesn't matter what machine you use, a Rhythm, Digitact, MPC, your computer. I don't care. TR-1000. I think nowadays, I preach this, the opposite of this on my older videos from years ago. So pay attention to this one. I think it is the best use case to have your Octatrack be a slave as a performance mixer and not to be a master. And the reason for this is that if you do a transition, if you record a 4-bar loop and you want to transition, you can change your patterns on your external gear while the Octatrack is still looping in its performance, looping its live recording. That way you can do all sorts of changes out here while it does what it does, and you can adjust the tempo on your external box. It just works so much better. You stay on one pattern the entire time. You're just using the parts on the Octatrack. You're using the sequencer, yes, 100%, but you're using the sequencer to clock things in the performance effects. You're not really using it to play anything other than maybe the live recording that you do for a transition. So this, I really truly feel strongly about this. I think you should slave your Octatrack when you're using it as a performance template. If you're going to do a recording in your studio and you're going to use performance effects that you've designed on your Octatrack or my effects, whatever you've done, that's when you may want to switch the slaving around and have the Octatrack become the master, because when you slave it, there is a possibility that you're going to introduce little tiny transients when you're doing beat repeat effects because of the MIDI jitter that happens if you, right now it's not slaved, but let's slave it really quick. So we go function MIDI, I want to receive, transport, and clock, and that's it. I don't want to receive program change. Now that we've done that, we're able to see there's MIDI jitter. Right, you saw the little fluctuation there. There it goes again. That little fluctuation, if a beat repeat happens during that fluctuation, you'll hear it, rick, 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 especially if it's a tape style delay that you have on here, because you have to use delays to make beat repeats on the Octatrack. It doesn't have a specific machine for it. It'll create little scratchy sounds. This only happens when the Octatrack is slaved. However, there is devices that you can buy, analog clocks that, such as the Symantonic which is becoming popular, and for good reason. That particular little clock, if you clocked your Elektron boxes with that, will have 0 MIDI jitter. It's the only box I've ever seen that can do this, even without the computer. It's highly effective. All right, so we got it slaved. We're gonna be able to hear this now, and I actually want to do exactly what we did here over here on track 5. So I want to turn this into a through machine. I want to bring the track level to 127. I want to set this to C and D. I want to go plus 63. I want to put a trigger down and I want to hit play, and we got music. Nice. All right. We got my pattern 2, the middle section of my dub techno track playing right now. I love this track. I love dub techno. And I feel like everybody loves dub techno this month. It's like a bunch of YouTubers popping off on dub techno. I'll take all the credit. I jest. All right. Before we move further, let's beg our sponsor, or I guess if Manifest Destiny, sponsor me, LaCroix. Just do it. It's depressing having to ask all the time. All right, we're back in action. There's a lot of chat going on. I see a lot of chat. I want to answer questions, but I think that that it'll just slow me down too much and maybe distract me from the outcome here. So we got our music playing. Now we need to start building effects. To do that, we are going to turn these into neighbor tracks. All right, so, and I'll tell you what a neighbor track does. A neighbor track takes the audio above it, so the track above it, feeds it into this track, giving you more insert effects. The Octatrack uses insert effects. There are no sends on the Octatrack. The only way to use sends on the Octatrack is to use your outputs, your cue out, and run it back into your inputs. So you use external effects for sends on the Octatrack. There's tons of tutorials on there, including ones by me. I have a very deep external effects video that you can watch on my YouTube channel. It teaches you 4 different ways to do external effects using the headphone output, using the cue output. There's all sorts of cool ways to do external effects. I think I actually discovered a 5th one that I forgot to put in there, but and I can't recall what it is. But if you want to do send effects, you're going to use external stuff. Everything in the Octatrack is inserts, similar to the Toneverk, but the Toneverk also has sends. So it is insert and sends. So it's kind of like a little more grown-up version of the performance effects here, except for no crossfader and yeah, no crossfader. All right, so we're gonna fill up these tracks with neighbors because they process the audio from above it. So we're gonna go through neighbor, neighbor, through neighbor, neighbor, and maybe another neighbor here, like as I said. And this one will be our live looper because I like having more effects on my drums. And I don't plan on putting, I mean, I could do like some weird glitchy effects with live resampling effects. But I kind of wanted this to be more of a techno template, but we'll see where we get there. There's my dog. If y'all haven't met my dog, Gemma, get to know her. Surely it is a delivery of some sort. All right, we're putting in neighbor tracks, and we're going to bring all their tracks to Unity, 127, 127. 120. We're going to bring everything to Unity, 127. That's what I actually like to do when I start a project anyway. So now we still have our audio. Everything does what we want it to do. Now let's talk about how we should have these effects routed. I want to just discuss this for a second with you. This is something where maybe I can't actually pay attention to the chat. Okay, when I'm explaining these performance templates to people, or when I'm explaining how to build live effects, whether it's in Bitwig, Ableton, Octatrack, or even on the Toneverk, because you can do this kind of stuff all over the place. It isn't exclusive to the Octatrack, but the concepts are the same everywhere you go. And if you're a guitar player, then you probably have a pedal board, or you have at least a bunch of pedals at the very least. Pedal boards are nice, even though they're a total pain in the ass to set up, and also to add a pedal to is often a nightmare. But think about a pedal board. When you look at a pedal board, the audio goes in on one section and it comes out at the end of that section. Those pedals, they are fixed. They cannot move. You'd have to physically move them, but imagine you couldn't physically move them ever. That's how the Octatrack is. I guess it actually, since you can digitally move the effects on the Octatrack and you can move the, well, whatever. I'm digressing. Think about a pedal board. Audio goes in, effect, 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 output. People put their effects in particular serial configurations on purpose. A lot of people like to put a compressor at the beginning of their signal so that they compress the incoming signal so that they have this fatter or less dynamic signal so they can play like really light taps, but they'll be loud. And so maybe they'll go to a compressor, and then maybe it'll go into a delay, and the delay will go into a reverb. And that would be fine. That would work great. Maybe it would go compressor, or maybe it wouldn't be a compressor. It would go tremolo, chorus, delay, reverb, or distortion, chorus, delay, reverb. All right. And there's a reason why I keep saying delay, reverb, because delay into reverb is smart. Delay into reverb is a smart way to configure your effects. There are some effects, they don't sound good after other effects. They do in particular sound design scenarios. On the Octatrack for a performance template or for a performance mixer concept, if you're doing live effects, you don't really want to have a distortion after your reverb. You don't really want to have a delay after your reverb. You're not trying to delay these giant clouds of reverb if you're playing house or techno or drum and bass or dub techno or whatever. Like, it's just, you're not gonna, this doesn't sound good. So you want to have your effects set up in a way where it's consistent and it makes sense and you can build the most effects out of what you have. So in my opinion, it goes like this. Your first effect right here, I often like to put this as a Lowfi. What this gives me is distortion on the input, sample rate reduction, bit rate reduction, and tremolo on the input, right? This is an effect I can use to like dirty up stuff. So this is a good one to have. I'll even put it over here and do the same thing. Oh no, I did that. Cool. So now I have a bunch of effects, because the Lowfi effect is a multi-effect module. It's really nice. We can hear how it sounds even. Here's it on the melody. Actually sounds pretty nice, just cruising around the melody. It's like adding this little shimmer on the drums. Right? Super cool. It's very nice to have them separated like this. It's extremely effective. The next effect I like to do, and I always do this, I make these templates and I always do these configurations because they are the most effective. And trust me, I have tried a ton of them. The next one is already set up as a delay. We're going to turn this delay into a beat repeat. Here's how I like to do the beat repeats for my performance effects. I often, almost 100% of the time, will mute side A and treat this as a dry wet mix. This is extremely important for this particular effect with this delay. So what we want to do is double press effect. We want to turn tape off, because tape delay on beat repeats sounds cool one time and then never again. Beat repeats sound good as digital delays because they're just regular classic scatter effect beat repeat type effects. And we don't really need to use ping pong. We could have ping pong not on the drums, but on the melody. Maybe that would sound cool as an experiment. It's not going to have a huge effect on this. What we want to turn on is lock on both of these. So now both 1 and 5, both of our buses now have beat repeat effects. We got to make sure our send is turned up. I like to turn the send up to 127, the feedback up to 127, the time to 128, the time to 128, feedback, there we go. So the reason why I did this, send at 127 means 0, 127. So the beat repeat effect will not take effect until it hits the end of the crossfader. That way I can high pass or low pass all the way across here. Bam, hit the beat repeat, and that is really effective. And distortion after reverb is, I'm sorry, this effect distracted me. This chat message distracted me. But distortion after reverb is super cool. But it is not super cool on your entire mix if there's a bunch of drums in it. But it is cool on guitar. No doubt, no doubt. I've done that a lot. Okay, so back to this. This is your filter on your delay down here, bass width. It's weird that it's called bass width, that's the Elektron thing. Time at 128. This is just because for the most part, we want the effect to be at a value that we're going to use the most. So I'm going to use the largest value the most as a beat repeat because I really like the half note loop, the doom-ch, doom-ch. That's kind of what this beat repeat will do, and I'll show you in a second. So I like to put the time there. This is something, it's kind of arbitrary a little bit, so you can do whatever you want with this. Feedback 127 is a requirement for this because without it, the beat repeat will start to fade. So when you want to lock in a fade that's a volume fade and not a filter fade, you'd lock in your feedback at a lower value and it would fade out. and I'll show you these things. You also get access, once you've done this, you get 2 beat repeat controls. 9 and 13 are now actual beat repeats you can use. These green triggers, when you go function down, you change your keyboard selection on your Octatrack, and if you use 9 you change your keyboard on the Octatrack, and down here, a delay control allows you to see any track that has a delay on it. That's what these green ones have, delays on it. So if I went to like track 7 and turn this into a Lowfi, you see track 7's delay disappeared, right? Now it's nothing. I'm actually gonna put a reverb there, so we could just go ahead and put the dark reverb there. So yeah, now you can see why sometimes they're green and sometimes they're not, because that can get a little confusing. Okay, so 9 and 13 are now beat repeats. Check it out. But I can beat repeat just the drums if I want on 9. Or just the melody. This alone is extremely fun. Just being able to have those independent like this, but we can make independent beat repeat effects that are locked into a scene on the crossfader and engage at the end of the fade. Very useful. So our next effect, after we've finished our delay, this is why this takes so long, because me explaining to you why this stuff matters is extremely important, and hopefully will help you design effects in every sort of situation that you are making your live templates, whether it's on your push 3, on your Octatrack, or your MPC. What other flagship devices can you do this on? Is there other stuff you can do this on? I can't think of anything. Anyway, so after we go the multi-effective distortion and all that, bitrate reduction, into a delay, which is cool. We can actually already start building effects just with these 2 effects. It's very effective. We want to go into a filter. We want to go into a filter, and then we want to go into a delay. And then we want to go into a chorus, a flanger, or a phaser. And then we want to go into a reverb. And that is the ultimate chain. And I'm going to explain this as I go, why that is the ultimate chain. So part of the reason why you have to choose where these things go, technically, if I had the option to, I wouldn't put my delay here. I would put my delay and my reverb on track 3. You cannot do that. You are able to, and don't actually do this, please. Don't actually do this. But you can actually hold the effects track and hit record and paste it over here, and you could technically paste a reverb onto effects 1. It's very bad for your Octatrack. I don't know why this is so bad, but it is. I've had to like reset my Octatrack if you do this. Like it could just like stay doing that for whatever reason until you reset it. It's what happened to me. It was very strange. So I don't recommend you actually do it, but it's possible. You can actually have 2 of the more CPU intensive effects on the same track. But there's a reason why they don't let you have the reverb and the delay on the same track. They don't want you to have too many of these reverbs and delays because they use up too much of the CPU in here, which is very limited, and it also can create a lot of feedback loops, having multiple delays. It's just can be problematic, but you can have multiple delays anyway. So just think about that. So I want to have a delay here, which we'll configure. I like the tape delay to use as an actual delay because tape delays sound really nice. I do like the ping pong on, so I'm going to do that. Over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Ping pong sounds good. Maybe not ping pong on my drums, just ping pong on my melodic stuff. And we're gonna like filter it and set it up to sound good. I'm gonna set the feedback up at about like 90 on both of these for now. 48 is a dotted 8th note, which is the default on most delays. It sounds really good. There's nothing wrong with it. So you could keep it at that. It sounds fantastic until you have a reason to change it. And then we go into, this will be our high pass, low pass filter. We could technically, if we wanted, switch this out for a DJ equalizer. And you can do the same stuff. You can remove mids and stuff. It's a little bit more surgical over here, but I honestly think it's less effective than the filter. You can choose a high pass or a 12 dB or 24 dB if you want a different curve on your cutoff for this filter. which I think is useful to use in other parts, right? So we have 4 different effects templates that we're going to build in this template. We're not going to build all 4 of these today. We're going to build some of one because that's how long it takes. But you can have the 24 dB filter on one, a 12 dB filter on another. You could have one that's 12 dB filter over here, 24 dB filter over here for these different filter effects. You could have one that has distortion on it, even though the distortion will add volume, so it's not usually a good idea. Unless you add distortion to every single track so that it's always distortion. If you wanted to, you could add some flavor that way. I do have plans to make like a template that is a modulated distortion template where it uses LFOs and the sequencer, and you kind of just throw triggers down and it will just create new like crunchy goodness, which I think would be cool for resampling drums. I'm digressing again. Okay, so what we have so far is a lo-fi into a beat repeat delay, into a filter, into another delay, which is used as a regular delay, into, for now, a chorus on both, into a dark reverb set as a send. It's got 0 pre-delay. Let's give it 8. It's a nice number. And we'll set this as a dark reverb, set it on send. If you set it on mix, so like truly they're both send, they're both mix effects, they're both insert effects is what I'm meaning to say. Send is emulating a send because it allows that when you like turn the mix up and then turn the mix down, what will happen is like the tail of the reverb will remain. Like if there was something that went into the tank, when it's set on send, you'll still hear the tail. And so it sounds like a send effect. But truly it's not, because everything is an insert effect on the Octatrack. If you set it to mix, when you bring the mix up and bring the mix down, the tank will also close. So you will not hear the effect anymore. So that's actually kind of cool for like gated snares, reverb gated snares. It's also cool just for making like really weird effects and just like weird like melodic stuff, like throwing melodic content into the reverb, going full reverb and then dropping it down to 0 and having this like swell happen that goes down to silence and then comes back. You can do that with your sequencer by sequencing the mix if it's set to mix mode. So you can do some really interesting stuff. We're not going to use mix mode, we're going to use send because we're making a performance template. Let's put this pre-delay at 8 as well. Cool. And then for these last 2, I haven't decided what I want to do, but one of them would be a live resample. I'd either put it on 4 or I'd put it on 8. And some of the templates I like to put on these like risers built into it. So I would put an actual sample here and set time stretch to it. I'd get a 4-bar sample and set it up so that it rises. If you check out Performance Mixer 3.06, which you can find on my Patreon or coffee.com, those effects are built into it all over the place with risers. Cool stuff. But right now we're going to ignore that and let's just make an effect. Now that we have this set up, let's make some basic effects and then we'll start getting some more interesting stuff going. So our first effect we should have in any live performance is just a high-pass filter. So what we want to do to make a high-pass filter, let's let the music play. Let's go to where our filter is. That's on effects 1 on both 5 and 6. And we're just going to hold down Scene B, select a section you want to do your effect on. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. This is our bass. This would be the high pass. I can bring it up really high if I want for the drums. We're going to give it some good amount of resonance. Sounds really good on drums. And then we'll bring this fader in. There's a few ways you can approach like how you should dial in your effects. One of the ways could be like this. You could actually just listen to your music and then go, oh yeah, that sounds good. All right. And then you could go, I'm gonna lock that in as an effect. Hold down B, press down, locking in a 9. And then you can clear your effect, hold effects and hit clear. And there you go. That's one way to do it. The other way is to literally just engage the crossfader, hold this down and make movements. 2 different approaches, both of them are effective. So right now, this just high passes my drums. I actually really like doing just high passing the drums. I can go over to my Digatone and, you know, play with some stuff. But I want to actually have this particular effect high pass everything. This is going to be a master high pass and a master low pass. So we're going to do the same thing over on the digatone side too, or the melodic side. Let's call it that. Let's not call it the digatone side. So I did 80-50 for my high pass. I think we could still do that. We could do that same thing over here. I don't really hear anywhere that it's problematic. Sounds pretty good. Let's do our low pass. I'm gonna put low pass on 10. Let's write it down. HP. LP. We'll go over here. Low pass. Okay. This is what I'm talking about with this resonance. If I give this low pass a bunch of resonance, like, it sounds kind of cool on the drums. It doesn't always sound good to do this, so I like to do a very little bit of resonance, or none at all is fine, even with the low pass. I think maybe no resonance at all might actually be the best move here. Just a clean low pass. Let's bring in a new kick drum and a new hat. Yeah, there we go. We're already ready to play a show. 2 effects is all you need. Actually, all you need is this high pass right here. All right. So I now want to have a high pass that just high passes the drums. So what I'm going to do, I just want to show you tips and tricks as I'm doing this. Hopefully the volumes are all good. Everybody, the volume all good? Do you want the dub techno to be even louder? I know, I love this kind of music. All right, so I'm gonna just copy this. No, I'm not gonna copy the high pass. We're just gonna go to 11 and we're gonna make a high pass filter over here. Maybe we'll have this one be a little different. It'll high pass more. So this is just a high pass of the drums. This is gonna be our high pass D. So high pass drums. I mean, honestly, I don't know why I don't have that on every template. I mean, should always have the high pass drums. I kind of had it set up where I was using MIDI controllers to do like the individual high passes for the inputs. You could also just go to your tracks, and just manually. It's not as effective. Here's a really important part for you to remember. As you're doing stuff like this took a long time for us to set up already. I mean, I could do this in a couple minutes without chatting, but you don't want to lose your progress on the Octatrack. You need to save your parts. Function, whoa. Function part, save or save all will be fine. Save all is fine with me. It's going to save all the parts. Now we save our project. Save. Okay. So important. So incredibly important. All right. So I'm going to let, if you're interested in having some input on this next filter effect. So this section is going to be these basic performance filters. These are just like, you need to have these. What should we have? Why save the parts first? I'm not saving the part first. I've done progress. So if I saved it first, that'd be like what I did before I did anything. And you don't want to do that. It wouldn't make any sense. I want to save them now because I don't want to lose this progress that I've done so far, which is setting up all these tracks, audio routing, and these 3 effects. So I need another effect. I don't know. Do we want like a drums only high pass or low pass the melody? Let's check it out. Let's see what happens. So I could do one where let's see how it sounds to just high pass the melodic stuff. And just drop to the drums. Oh, that is pretty nice. There's a chord on the drum, on the dig attack that's like still melodic. which I love. You know, I think it's good to actually have a little bit of melody on your drum bus. That way you can do stuff like this and still have some of that melody in there. So this is high pass melody. Let's go to another pattern that's maybe a little more obvious with this. Yeah, that's nice. Cool. All right. Yeah, we'll do that. So we're going to do a high pass melody here. So high pass M. So already washing off. All right. So these are going to be our just central classic performance effects, DJ effects. They're just things that you would want on an individual DJ mixer. So we have a master high pass, a master low pass, and we have an individual high pass and an individual high pass for each melodic concept. I don't think it's so important to have these individual low pass filters on them because I don't use that many low pass filters. Maybe you do, but I don't use them as often in my live music because I don't like bringing the energy down that much. I prefer take the low end away and bring the low end back. That's just what's grown on me the most. But we could make some filter effects, which I really like to do. So I think these being your classic DJ effects, maybe these right here, I was gonna have these be like these like riser effects and then have these be more just like whatever, weird stuff. So maybe we do them over here. Maybe we continue the filters, but have these be our basic filters. So right here, we could jump in and try out a low pass, high pass, where one is low pass, one's high pass. Maybe we add some reverb or something to an effect, make something a little bit more unique sounding. And this is just us playing with like our serial chain of effects in a very basic way. We only need to do little things on your first section of performance effects because you have 4 parts. So you can take this exact part, copy it to another part, and then go in and start making it weird. So right now we just want to have this like cleaner, basic. This is probably the one you end up using the most because it's just going to work every time. It's going to do the most, you know, less sensational effects, but very effective. And the other ones you can kind of make a little bit more animated with modulators like LFOs and just adding more effects to it. So right here, let's try doing see what happens when we do like a low pass on the drums and maybe a high pass on the melody or something. Let's see how that sounds. Let's do like a high pass here. Or no, I wanted to do a low pass on the drums. I like the little resonance there. And we can throw some reverb on this, on our melody. Let's make this reverb more effective. We haven't done this yet. I like to bring the reverb time to about 100, and we'll do it over here too. And then we want a high pass at least to 30. Otherwise it can be really boomy. And then if you want to really dial in your dark reverbs, you want to play with your shelving gain. This is something that you need to dial in to taste. This right here, what I'm doing with the high pass is really just to eliminate boomy, gross reverb, but this can actually make a dark reverb sound cleaner. If it's too resonant, or sorry, got too much high end, you can just really dial it in just perfectly. It's pretty effective. All right, so we're gonna put some reverb on here and just see how this sounds. Nice. Not a bad effect. It's pretty dramatic though. I feel like it really is gonna like, it's meant for a big breakdown. Maybe we should make it even bigger on the melodic side. Maybe we add some delay. This is where the beat repeat would be good. Cool. That's a pretty good sounding effect. It does what it's supposed to do. Creates tension. I don't think I need a resonance. Yeah. Okay, I think I actually want to move this effect here. So I'm going to copy it, go here and paste it, and delete this one. Because I do think I want to have this be my my riser effects that are like automated with LFOs. And I think that's kind of important to keep them in the same place that I always have them in. I always have the riser effects over on the end next to the master looper. So I don't know what to call this. HPLP, I guess. HPLP. High pass, low pass. Cool. Change this up a little bit. All right, let's build some beat repeat effects. So for the beat repeat effects, I like to start here and I like to go longest, shorter, 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 till this is an echo freeze, because I do a lot of, I like to have an echo, like a throw, where I can just go, and then pull the music back. And I like to be able to just jump to one to do that. I like to be able to jump to my master loop here, jump to my throw here, and this be a half note beat repeat. Let's start with the half note beat repeat. I used to have this effect, or I have this effect in pretty much all my templates, and I called it the Daft Punk effect when I first created it. And it's just a looper, a half note looper that like does kind of a smile pass. So it's got like these two resonant peaks. There's one, a high pass resonant, low pass resonant peak, and it's kind of like mid-centric, and it has some chorus on it, and it beat repeats, and it just sounds like an old kind of Daft Punk vibe. So we can build that effect on 4. So let's go here, and what I want to do is go to my delay, and I want to turn send to 0, and that will make a drum beat repeat and a melody free repeat. So right now it's looping the drums. So what's cool about when it loops the drums, I know you can't see this, but if I can remove my drums. I just took 3 tracks out, and when I let go of this, it drops into that. You don't want to sit on it for too long, but it is a good way to do these really short little transitions to let you kind of like bring in a new sound and give you a second to think. The squeeze filter. Yeah. Femto, what's up, brother? Jordo. Yeah, I love, actually, Femto Sound, who just said the squeeze filter, has this amazing filter effect they made in Ableton that I'm definitely going to steal his ideas. Maybe I dream Octamat. That's very cute. Alright, let's make it so it beat repeats both of these. We could have them beat repeat at different time intervals, which would be an interesting idea. Should we see how that sounds? So right now we're gonna beat repeat the drums like this. We can go for the melody. We can do the same thing by just bringing this down to 0. So this is the same as us hitting both of these trigs at the same time. It sounds the same as this. And that's the same as us doing an 8 and this. Sorry, I think I missed. There it is. I was hitting the wrong button there. Right? That's the same value, 128. These are values of the delay freeze. So, and these are the 2 tracks that I have doing it. So, right now, we get this. We pair this with a filter, it becomes really cool. So we can even have like a second variation, copy it, paste it here. We have this clean version. In its own right is nice. It's just a half note. It's very musical. It almost sounds like a little phrase. It's just repeating, like creating a little build-up. Pair it with a filter. We could put some high pass. We could do that again on our melody too. Okay, this brings up a really cool point, and this has to do with why the beat repeat is on the insert, like in the insert of the audio, on the beginning of the audio, why we're grabbing it at the first part. The reason we're grabbing it at the very beginning is that we can take audio, grab little time segments of it, 2 different time segments, a time segment that could be different on the melody bus, one that could be different on the drum bus. We can filter them differently post beat repeat instead of beat repeating the filter. So that we can do all sorts of stuff. We can actually have a filter that's going, doing, you know, crazy twists and stuff like that on a beat repeated or a segment of audio that is being looped by the delay buffer. And that's why it's important to have it at the beginning and not somewhere else, because it won't be as nearly as effective without it. So something I want to add to it is I want to add some chorus. I don't think I need to add chorus to the drum bus. Maybe I add some distortion to the drum bus and add some chorus to the melody bus. And we kind of chorus this whole thing and make it really sound more vibey. So let's go to 7. What? Get out of here, demon. Here's my chorus. It doesn't need to be, you don't need that much, but let's see how it sounds with a lot. The default chorus values are always pretty good on Elektron boxes, if I'm being honest. But you can make other effects out of the chorus. Like you can make a phaser or flanger with your chorus by playing with the feedback. Start to sound like a doesn't that sound like a flanger? So check us out. I'll do like a little tiny transition here with this beat repeat effect into a new part of the song, or I'll just make the song sound dramatically different. I'll do it really fast, and you can kind of just like see on here what's happening, even though it's a little blurry because the focus is on the Octatrack. But check us out. We're gonna go like this. 1, 2, 3. Grab these, change these. We can do it again. This is the kind of stuff you can just flip your tune really quick, doing stuff like this. This is the kind of stuff that I do live. Make my songs last longer. It's like Rugiet for music. Maybe that's a joke only I get. let's go to a new pattern so we don't get sick of listening to me. This needs a high pass filter on it. All right, let's build some more effects. This is the same song, by the way. This is just the earlier part of the song. Let's hear these effects on this part of the song really quick. Master low pass. I really don't care for the master low pass. I never really use it, but it's a necessity to have there. That's nice. Let's try this one. Just high passing the melody bus. I have so much melody on my drum bus that it's not as effective. There we go. Here's our effect that we built. This like the low pass drums, high pass melody with reverb and delay. There's a nice little heartbeat happening there. If your heartbeat was having some sort of arrhythmia. These moments right here, like you can't see it, but like this filter effect, it's got my low pass, my drums. Here's what happens when you low pass your drum bus. You mute all your hi-hats. You didn't actually mute your hi-hats, but you muted them with the EQ that is the filter. So like, this is really effective moment for you to change all of your hi-hats. So I switch my hi-hats, switch to another percussive sound that's much more high frequency. You can't even hear that I did that. We're not like doing some sort of like camouflage here. We're just using a low pass filter to disguise the change that we're making in our music. And at the same time, we've created this beautiful tension by adding this reverb and delay to the melodic side of our music. And we could play with that. We could play with this. We could go in and, you know, play with the keyboard. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, there we go. I'm hitting all the wrong notes. Yeah, check us out. Take the kick out. That was cool. I mean, once I found the right notes to play, something you should do beforehand. But I think it's pretty effective, right? So I think this effect is good. We keep this effect. Don't think it's a good throw effect. You hear that? Ugh. Yeah, I think this is a big effect. So you need to think about like your performance effects too, like how big the effect is. And by big, I mean like how much of a change is it making to the overall sound of your music? Because this low pass filter is low passing your drums, like I said, it's muting all your hi-hats. That's incredibly big. That's a really profound change to your live sound. Having all the high frequency of your drums go away and just be left with the dum 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 of your toms and your kicks, and whatever else you have that's in the low end. Maybe a little chunk of your snares there still. And so that's just so big. You need to have that effect come on very gradually. This should be used as a tension builder. These kind of effects should be used for tension. Be gentle with it, take your time. No one's in a rush. They're gonna enjoy this moment where everybody gets to turn around if you're playing a show and talk to each other and go, what do you think of this guy? Doesn't he suck? Right? No, hopefully not. You can bring it back in. some of the effects you can just throw, right? Like this. You want to throw it too, but you could use the filtering that happens too. And then just right at the end, it will trigger. All right, now we're gonna make some more beat repeats really quick. So I wanna make my throw beat repeat, so my Echorreeze. Echorreeze is a really simple effect. We could have two versions of it. We'll have one that the melody and the drum busts are freezing at the same interval, the same rate, and then one where they freeze at different rates. And I think that'll sound pretty cool. So let's freeze both at the same time. So let's go to Effects 2. We're gonna bring the time down to 16. It's a good Echorreeze time. And we wanna use this low pass filter in the Echorreeze to just let it filter itself out. It needs to be pretty drastic low pass filtering. And then we have to lock in the send at 0 and lock the send at 0. The send at 0 is how you engage a freeze delay. Like, check us out, watch. I'll just throw down the send to 0 here and it will lock in the beat repeat. Should be pretty obvious too. Okay, that's why we lock the send at 0 when we do this. Echorreeze. All right, I think it needs a little more filtering. Maybe even have some high pass on it. Actually, maybe we'll use an actual filter for it. There's so many different ways to configure this. You can make a billion of these throws. They all sound good. I love doing this. And I'll use these like an effect like this one. Just like do an Echorreeze back into the track. I think that's pretty effective. So let's just go back over a little bit of the history of what we've done here. We have these serial chains and we're making as many useful, musical, practical effects as possible with our pedal board of effects. And every time we create a scene, we're telling one effect, we're pressing the button on our pedal board and we're changing the values. That's what this is doing, this macro controller that we have here. So we have a pedal board and we're just saying, chorus, your turn, filter, your turn, delay, your turn, set to these values, bam. On, off, on, off, on, off. That's the whole process. But you have to set up your pedal board first and pick which effects go in what spot because they're not gonna move later. Because once you build out your effects, you cannot just switch them around. You can't just go, oh, I'm gonna put the delay over here now. Because that's just not how it works. You have to go to another part and do that, right? And then the chain will be different. The chain might be weird. It might not be as useful, but you can't. So once you've done this, it's static, it's fixed. It's just, it is what it is. So now we got to put our, I'm going to put a half for half note and we'll put echo for that one. So we have a bunch of effects so far. Not bad, right? Maybe we should try doing a master looper. This is a much more confusing and but extremely useful but challenging thing to do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a scene that when we transfer the crossfader over to B, we're gonna leave the live audio and enter a live loop of our audio of whatever value we want it to be. I'm gonna put it on track 8 for now because I think I may end up putting another neighbor there as put a DJ filter there just for fun for my drums so that I can manually shape my drums. I don't know, I think that stuff's kind of fun. You can assign those to a MIDI controller if you wanted. So I'm actually going to make this a flex machine. And I don't need slice on. I actually don't need to mess with any of this stuff. We could turn loop on. I do want it to loop. We don't even need loop on. So maybe actually I don't want loop on. Yeah, I don't know. That's not going to matter. The sequencer is it's going to be playing with the sequencer, so whatever. Let's turn it off for now and see if I notice anything different. All right, we're going to make this track be 4 bars. So this is going to be our live loop track, so it's going to play for 4 bars. I'm going to put a trigger down. It's my playback trigger. Maybe we'll skip this part and just go into the recorder setup. So this is our flex track. Flex tracks are flexible. That's the point of the flex track. That's why they call them flex tracks, as far as I know. What's flexible about a flex track is that it can play sound from the recording buffer without having to commit it to the compact flash card. It also means that you have access to the audio editor's editing functionalities where you can make permanent changes to samples. If you bring a sample into your audio editor on a flex track, one from your compact flash card, you can make permanent adjustments to it. You can invert the phase, you can normalize it, you can chop it, you can crop it, and you could save it. You cannot do that in a static track. Static tracks, you can do some stuff, but you can't save them. You can't make permanent adjustments. Static tracks are just playing samples from the compact flash card, kind of like a model samples or a lot of sample players. So I want to assign this to a recording buffer. I want to assign it to recording buffer 8 because I'm using track 8, and I want to, first of all, I just want that makes sense, right? Track 8, recording buffer 8. But the recording buffers, they are fixed to their location. So recording buffer 7 is on track 7. Despite the ability of a flex track to be able to listen to multiple tracks, it doesn't actually exist on multiple tracks. Like, I can't actually have recording buffer 6 go to track 1. I can have track 1's flex track listen to recording buffer 6, but I cannot record I can't be on track 1 and record into track 6's recording buffer. That's not how it works. When I record on track 8, it's going to go into recording buffer 8. That's final. So I want to use recording buffer 8 because that's where I'm going to do my recordings. I've already set it to 4 bars. I'm going to go function rec. When you do function rec, this is where you set up all your routing and everything for your recordings. This actually becomes a recording sequencer. So watch, when I leave this menu, those trigs went away, but I'm still in step edit. Go back here. There they are again. I like to use this as a way to get to my recording track sequencer. There's multiple sequencers, function bank. You can see all the sequencers you have. You can even, move through the pages on the sequencers over here, and it would actually show you those pages here as well. So you could go here, and this will also put triggers, you can see popping up, for your recording sequencer. But I think it's slow to do it this way. I think it's more effective to see that you went to the record button, you're in your recording setup. I might as well use my recording trigger here. We don't want to use this kind of red recording trigger. This is a recording trigger that will re-trigger every time the sequencer runs over it. Every time that sequencer runs over it, this little playhead's going to start doing its thing. It's going to start doing the process of recording. That is not useful for live looping. It is useful for live looping, but more for overdub live looping. It is not useful for transitioning on the Octatrack because every time the sequencer runs back over it, it will delete what's in the recording buffer and start a new recording. And that isn't effective because you're in the moment. So your scene for listening to that master recording would be silence. So it won't work. So what you need to do is hold function and hit that button, and it will become, or hit that trigger, that recording trigger, and this will become a one-shot trigger, which means it requires you to arm it. You can also disarm it, and it will also only play one time. So every time you arm it, it'll trigger when the sequencer runs over it, and it will not trigger again until you tell it to. This is extremely effective for live looping. Typically, I have this recorder track on 4, so I'm already confusing myself by doing it this way. But we're trying out some new ideas today. So let's set up our recording buffer. I want to record all of my incoming audio. But I want to record all of my incoming audio after it's passed through these tracks. Because I want to record them post effects. Like, I want to be able to do like a bunch of crazy stuff on here if I want and have that be a part of my live loop. That way I can create a live loop that is unique and dynamic. Or it could just be the music. So there's a couple different ways you can set this up. One, I could just set it up to record my track 3 and track 7. The thing about the recording buffers is that you have to sum them somehow, right? Something I do like to do, and maybe I should do this. Maybe we should do this. Maybe this is actually a really fun thing for me to show you, actually. And I really kind of miss this in my live performance workflow. I just made myself so happy to think of this. We're gonna make 2 different recording tracks. I'm gonna copy this track. I'm gonna put it over here. And we're gonna assign this one to recording buffer 4. This is gonna be our drum recording bus. This is gonna be our melody recording bus. And we're gonna have 2 different, we're gonna have a master, we're gonna have a melody recording and a drum recording. And then maybe this one will be some wacky crap that I'll do. So we'll put master M. This will be mel. This will be DRM drum. So these will be our different recording buffers. Let's do it. This is actually really cool. So on track 4 with our recording buffer, we're gonna target track 3 because that's the end of the chain. So I'm gonna go function rack 3. I'm gonna use source 3 because we're doing internal recordings. I'm gonna turn off inputs A, B, C, and D. Even though it doesn't technically matter, I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna target track 3. I'm gonna set my recording length to 4 bars. So that's what we're gonna do is 4-bar loops. Over here, we're gonna do the same thing, turn these off. I'm gonna target track 7 because that's the end of our neighbor track. And also set it to 4 bars. We actually don't need to go in here and do anything. We don't want to use fade in or fade out. That's fin-fout is an actual fade in and fade out. It'll suck the transient out of your kick drums for live looping, so it'll sound like crap. This A, B, C, and D is actually a monitor for pickup machines. So if I had a pickup machine, I could monitor the pickup machine when I'm pressed on the track if these were active. And this is your quantized recording and your quantized playback. This is really useful if you want to do segments of recordings that are not 4 bars, that are maybe 8 bars or 16 bars. You can use this to kind of trick the Octatrack, and that's a whole nother conversation for us to have. We have our one-shot trigs on both, and we're going to use a master arm to arm them at the same time so that we don't have to go to these tracks and like arm them in any sort of weird way. All right, so this is where things are going to get a little more technical, a little more interesting. We're already getting into like some more difficult processes here, but we are going to make this scene be both of these tracks playing at the same time and everything else silent. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to, the way I like to do it, you can do it another way. There's multiple ways to do this, but the way I like to do it is I like to lock in the track volume at 0. This way, a bump of this encoder can't mess with my volumes and make them sound different when I'm doing a live loop. That's why, partly why I use this. I just lock it in so it's permanent. It can't be changed. And then I'm just going to hold this down and go track level all the way down and track level all the way down. And then I'm going to put down a playback trigger. We're going to make these sequence. I forgot to make. Oh, no, we're good. This is the one. I did track level all the way down, track level all the way down, 0, 0. The sequences are already 4 bars long. Yes, put a playback trigger, put a playback trigger. Just take a look here and make sure I don't have a bunch of extra triggers. We're good, we're good. Should be good here. And so now when I crossfade over, I'm gonna bring these volumes, both these tracks, I'm gonna bring down to -64. So they're silent. They only have volume and it will be 0, which is what we want. We wanna get to 0. 0 will be unity. There'll be 0 when the crossfader is at the very end and it hits this edge right here. So you're gonna go all the way. So you're gonna do it real fast. There's actually a trick. If you go to your LFO, and you go to your LFO designer, you could make an LFO design that is like everything at 0, like this. We're not gonna do this today, but I'm showing you. You can make your LFO at 0 and make this first one go all the way up like that. Oh no, it's the other way around. It's everything all the way down and everything all the way up after this, like this. Sorry, that was confusing. This becomes a gate, essentially, and you could use this gate to trigger this crossfade if you wanted. So it could be like right here, it could turn it on and bring them all to 0. Just go wham, and it will slam it all to 0. You could use your LFO to do this. It's a tricky little setup. You'll have to explore it more later. I'm not dealing with that right now. We're going to do it the easy way and the way I always do it, which is just a really fast crossfade with a really fast fade with the crossfader. All right, let's check it out. When I want to actually do this live loop recording, I just want to hit the yes button All right. I hit yes to arm all, and we'll be able to see these recordings on both these tracks. They're gonna be two separate waveforms. Here it is recording the drums, recording the melody. This is so cool, I absolutely love this. And I go to 16, and 16 is gonna bring up both these tracks separately up to unity and silence the incoming audio. You didn't hear it, right? But check this out. I transitioned play it all in reverse. Pretty cool, right? I think it's super cool. This is why I love the Octatrack. I mean, come on, how else? You can't do this on anything else. Even try and do this on a push 3, you're gonna lose your mind setting this up. You're just gonna end up plugging it into Ableton and doing it there. So now anytime I want, I can do this. And here's what's so effective about this like live looping stuff, is I'm gonna change this song dramatically. I just did, and I'm able to like take my time doing it while people listen to this 4-bar loop, and then I can fade over to a new part of my song. Dope, right? So now we can make a version of this that is just a loop of the melody and just a loop of the drums, letting us do stuff to the our machines while another machine loops. But I also want to quickly, we're at a point right now where it's important for me to talk about why I use the Octatrack as a slave and not the master, and it has to do exactly with this master looper right here. So say I want to transition to a song at a different tempo. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, this is actually a time for us to maybe zoom the camera out. Okay. Should be clear enough. I'm going to transition from 128 BPM to 145 BPM using the Octatrack and this little performance template that I built for you in the last hour and a half, however long it's been. Hour and 20. I do this in private lessons with people all the time. People think they can book it for an hour. Not going to happen. It takes at least 2 hours to get this far. There's no doubt. There is no doubt. It's a deep dive. And I'm already going under the assumption you understand this stuff, for the most part. All right, let's do the transition. Let's talk about the transition really quick. Let's talk about transitioning in hardware, and dawless transitioning is a whole topic unto itself. It's much more difficult than it is with a CDJ, right? That's built for transitions. It's designed to make that flawless experience, great effects and all that, and perfectly mastered audio. It's just not the same at all. What we're dealing with, very raw garage sound and hardware electronic music, sometimes. In a very good way. I personally prefer it over anything else. But I think as far as these transitions go, it's pretty confusing for people. And how do they do it? And what device should they use? Should they use an RC05 looper or a RC30? Or should I use, what's the other one? The other one, anyway. There's a bunch of loopers you could pick up. They're usually drum loopers, or guitar loopers that have stereo inputs and that slave to MIDI. Those are decent for doing live transitions. Chaos Replay can do it. There's a couple devices that can do it. The Octatrack does it extremely well. So what I want to do is I want to be able to slave my Octatrack to the BPM. And so I want to record a version of my music that is going to transition well to a new song. So if you're I've never DJ'd. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never DJ'd. I've only ever played in bands and done this hardware electronic music, which I've been doing for the last like 8 years daily as a job, essentially. So I do this a lot. I'm playing with these machines constantly, reading their manuals over and over like a psychopath. And I still have to pull up the Octatrack manual. Even as much as I do Octatrack stuff on this channel, I still have to pull it up because it's just, you know, sometimes you forget something. But when you transition as a DJ, I've studied a lot of this stuff, is what I do. Is I'll go and I watch a tutorial on something, like in Ableton or on Bitwig, and I try and see if it can be done on another machine. And that's how I come up with my ideas. I'm not like 100% thinking of them all myself. A lot of times I'm like, oh, this guy already figured it out. I'm gonna take that idea and bring it over here. And that's what I did with a lot of stuff on here. So the DJ transition, typically, like when you hear a lot of DJ sets, they'll be like, I'm gonna play 140 BPM in G Phrygian or harmonic minor or just G minor, whatever. I'm playing 140 BPM tracks in G minor. All of my tracks are 140 BPM in G minor or a relative minor of G or a relative key of the key that you're currently playing in. And this will allow you to transition without worrying about drums not matching during the transition. This will allow you to transition without worrying if there's going to be a melodic sound outside of the key of the next track as you're fading into a new track. That sounds terrible. That's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not ideal. You will stand out in a negative way, typically. You might still get some kudos for being able to transition in general because it's a harder thing to do in dawless, that's for sure. But it's not ideal. So if you want to do things ideally, in my opinion, what I've discovered, and from what I've seen on tutorials and stuff, but what I discovered just from my own curiosities and playing around, is that transitioning from drums to melody works extremely well. And transitioning from melody to drums works extremely well. Transitioning from melody to melody that's in the same key obviously works really well. Melody to relative minor, or relative key, I mean, works really well. And then there's also pivot mixing, which is a whole nother thing that you could dive into, which you can do as well on the Octatrack by messing with the BPMs. It's like, I actually can't explain it because I don't know it well enough, but that's a thing. Cheers, Toby, for teaching me that one. But the one that we want to do is transition from and drums to drums works just fine if they're the same BPM. That's great. It's really just avoiding this inharmonic content clashing with each other. We really don't want that to happen. And we don't want to have two different BPMs transition. That's terrible. That sounds really bad. Unless you're doing the pivot mixing and they're like relative BPMs of each other and they can do that experience. So hopefully that makes sense. That's my what we're going to try and do. And this is something that requires a lot of your brain power to actually pull off. So this is not as easy as I would like it to be, honestly. So sometimes I just, I like to prepare my music. I use the purple mutes, which is pattern mutes on here, so that when I go to another song, it's ready for these types of transitions. But I'm going to transition from, this dub techno pattern over to this like electro track. Okay, so if I wanted to transition over to it as it is, then I would want to have all of the melodic content leave during my live loop. And I also need to get to the BPM. So I play my music in my dub techno track. And what we do is we are gonna record a loop of just the drums. So we're gonna like start, bringing some of this music out. So I could, just because I don't want to do this, because I don't want to mess with this so much and mess with my track levels, what I recommend you do is you fade everything out. Like you go to your mixer section if you want, start fading stuff out. I just go to track and do it, but you can do it faster this way, or if you get a MIDI controller, that's really useful. But we want to get our melodic stuff out of here, so I'm going to get rid of all my melodic stuff that's playing. I got some playing over here. Just down to my drums. Right? I'm going to hit yes, get a recording. We're going to do our recording. You can do it before or after you transition to the new BPM. It actually would sound better to record it after you transition to the new BPM. Because if you record, the recording that I have now over here is gonna get time stretched to 140 BPM from 128. So it's gonna sound a little gritty. That's also an effect. The grit of time stretch is an effect. It can sound kind of nice. But technically, you would actually want to start your BPM transition first if you wanted to have the tastiest live loop, right? Because without the time stretch having any effect on your music. So we want to nudge our tempo up. I'm going to do it kind of quickly just to get this over with so you can just see the results. So I'm going to start bringing this BPM. I'm going to do it, with some intention, not like a maniac. People are like, oh, something's happening. I'm at 145, I can grab my live loop. There it is, it's looping. It's grabbing the loop now at 145 BPM. I'm gonna transition super fast with the fader. Over. We're gonna go to the new song on the dig attack. We're in the new song. Now we can do our transition. We can do a slow, this is what's cool about this is that we don't have to do this fast, boom, and we just drop into a song. We can actually fade into it. Check it out. Jamming, right? Pretty cool. We transitioned from dub techno at 128 BPM to 145 BPM, and it sounded good. Smooth transition between songs. All of my music in the same project on all the machines. Octatrack being slaved by the clock, still on pattern 1 on my Octatrack. Live looped 4-bar segment. Perfect, right? I mean, to me, that was perfect. Nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, pull that off in a live show, it will sound fantastic. This is like very impressive to people. I mean, as a listener, it's so nice when the music does this beautiful transition. And when you're playing hardware shows, like me, I mean, all the shows I play are like really hardware shows. I don't ever play anything that's not like everyone else is also playing hardware. Because that's what I'm into, right? Is the hardware electronic music scene. It is, there's often like, you know, a little moment of silence between a song because it's hard to do this transition. It's like, this is the advantage of this like Octatrack workflow. And all you got to do is hit the yes button and it'll record a 4-bar loop. You do have to have, you know, practice to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna remember, I gotta take out all this melodic content, or I gotta match keys or relative keys or pivot mix or whatever. You gotta have that process down. But as a hardware user, and everyone who's coming to your hardware shows is typically hardware users, it's nice to do something that people are like, think is cool. You know, that they enjoy this process. And then afterwards, maybe someone comes up to you and goes, man, how did you do that? I really want to be able to do that too. And you can explain to them that the Octatrack is the supreme sampler and that all other samplers are just little babies that are crying for attention, the attention the Octatrack gets. You tell them that. You tell them I said that. No, I mean, the dig attack is such a good sampler, so I don't really mean that entirely. But that transition is perfect, right? And you can do all sorts of fun stuff with these other live looping segments. I've been talking at you for an hour and 33 minutes straight, non-stop, no silence. That was an hour's worth of LaCroix drinks. How's everybody doing? It's Tuesday. It's live stream day for me every Tuesday. I'm actually really excited right now. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't concluded this tutorial. There's a lot more that I can show you. There's so much more, honestly. I do want to show some riser effects. Let's take a little break for a second. Let me catch my breath. And by catch my breath, I mean can talk at you a whole bunch more, but just not about the Octatrack. I personally am about to have this fantastic transition where I am going to have so much more time to make video content and possibly add an extra day to my live stream. And I really, really want to do that. I think live streaming might be my favorite thing that I do. I want to do it more. I feel like I could do it all the time. I think I would love to just sit here and just jam and chat and talk about the process of music and bring new pieces of equipment on the channel as more often and try new things. I'm one of those people who loved playing in bands because I loved sharing my music with other people. That was like my favorite part about being in a band, was like showing off your riff, your bass player, your drummer, or whatever position you are, and they look at you and they're like, yeah, and you're like, they're getting into it, and you're like, oh man, we're all getting into this together. This feels so good as a group. That group energy starts growing. I feel like that happens on stream. I feel the energy on stream despite there not actually being someone there and I'm talking to an inanimate object. In my mind, I have made this connection with the viewer, and it feels better for me, and it gives me the energy to make music and to talk about this type of in-depth content because of the interest that's there for this kind of stuff, as opposed to recording it stale by myself with no one is not as fun for me. So I discovered that recording streams and hanging out and doing streams is the most effective way for me to share my knowledge and technique and my favorite stuff with the community that I love and want to nurture. So I want to do it more. That's just a little side note that I was putting out there. Maybe you're going to see more live streams from me. Maybe not. Maybe I won't end up having enough time, but I really want to, and I want to make it a regular thing. So I hope everybody's doing well, and thanks for hanging out, and thank you for all the support. 100%. If you want to continue to support this channel in any way besides just hanging out, viewing the content, and I hate that word, content, watching Octatrack, Digitak, Digatone, M8, Toneverk, modular, live music production techniques and tutorials, if you like that kind of stuff, you can visit patreon.com/EZBOT and sign up for the Patreon, and that supports the channel directly. There's also a channel membership now that will give you priority chat. So I'll see that you're messaging me and I will make that a priority, and that's the priority membership for the YouTube channel. Coffee.com if you want to pick up my performance templates. As you can see, I like to make performance templates on the Octatrack. If you've been watching this at all, I have a ton of them with a bunch of weird stuff I've done. But if you join the Patreon, there's like a ton of performance templates on there, and there's alternate versions of them, stuff that's not available to purchase on coffee.com. Some stuff that's, you know, doesn't always work because it's so experimental. Some stuff that, you know what I mean? Cool stuff to explore that I put a lot of time and energy into. And if you want to check it out, you can. That's patreon.com/EZBOT. Now, let's get back to the tutorial. I'm going to zoom the camera back in on the Octatrack because we need to learn more stuff. Okay. I'm in sweats because I work from home. Isn't that nice? Working from home is pretty rad, I'm not going to lie. Although it can be a little lonely, you know what I mean? For those of you who work at home. It's not much to do sometimes, you know, or talk to anybody. Okay, let's do some modulated effects. Let's use an LFO. We haven't even touched the LFOs yet. Yeah. Let's go back to the dub techno track. I'm gonna make like a riser that like flips around. I'm gonna put it on 13. It's gonna be like this high pass filter. It's gonna automatically high pass itself and then bring the high pass back. Like I'm gonna go like this and then it's gonna high pass and then it's gonna come back. We're doing it on 13. So I'm gonna try and remember exactly how I like to do this. It's going to be on track 2, which means track 2 is now going to need to be 4 bars long. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I want it to be 4 bars. Did I hit something? I'm going to go high pass. Pass over here. We're gonna add a bunch of reverb to it. All right. We're gonna go to our LFO on track 2, because this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna modulate the filter with an LFO. There's 2 different ways we can do it. There's 2 different LFO shapes we can do. We could do a ramp like this. This ramp wave is super weird. I don't know why Elektron did this. The ramp wave, this wave is actually the shape that you see here. This is the shape of the wave. It's not like just the ramp and then this isn't anything. It's the ramp and nothing. That's weird. It's in all the boxes. I don't know. It's useful. I do use it in all my performance templates. But like basically you have to double the speed. The other shape you can use is a saw. And I think we want to have a saw that goes down. So we bring the value down. Yeah. I want the source to be... We'll do it on 1 first. I usually use the ramp and I just double... Or I make it twice as slow. That's what you'd have to do with the ramp. Filter. Bass. Trig, we want to use Trig Sync. Trig Sync Trig. Trig Sync Trig is really useful. Trig Sync 1 would have worked too. It doesn't matter. Either one of these is going to be fine. This particular scenario. Trig Sync derives the phase of the LFO will be reset. I was saying it's derived from the track, but it's the phase of your LFO will be reset every time the sequence on your track gets to step 1. That's what Trig Sync does. It syncs LFOs to your track as opposed to the trig. There's also just sync trig trig. Trig sync trig is what I'm talking about, where it uses the track. So we're gonna apply this here. I'm gonna set it at 16. Let's see if this is the right value. I don't have this memorized, so I need to remember what it is. You can hear it's doing what I want it to do. It's bringing the high pass filter in. Okay. No, that's not right. Okay. Why is it doing a boom, boom, boom? What's that cue on the bass coming down? Let's get rid of that. Wait a second. Why is that kick drum? Oh, I got this. I gotta lock this in. Okay, sorry. This is my fault. lock you in, set you to 0. There we go. All right, we built the effects. This is a modulated effect. I usually call this one hallway riser. You can make a bunch of variations of this that are really cool. Remember this LFO speed. So it works. Let's do it over here. Set this to filter base. Saw 2, speed 16. Trig, sync, trig. What value did I do? 64. Cool. So now you have an auto riser, which you could use to transition. You could also like do this exact effect. We could copy this effect. What do we want to call it? Where's my pen? Let's call it rise. So you could copy this exact concept, copy it, and we could go over here, paste it, and then we can edit and make it into something a little different. So we could use this as our classic high-pass reverb riser, and I think it sounds great as this, like, it's good as an intro. Someone was asking about this board. I'll tell you what's up with this board. This board is not a part of my workflow. I'm not keeping this. I'm currently in the process of filming a video that is not an EZBOT video. I'm filming it for another company. I'm just being a presenter for someone else. And I teach this stuff all the time, and so I can't not have it connected, but I need this desk space to be void of Elektron stuff, so I have it on this panel. I can pick it up and I can take it off the desk very quickly, film, take it and put it back. When I'm done with this project, this stuff will be back on the table. I do not like this thing. I'm not into it, and this is not strapped to it. I don't want anything to do with this. It's just working for this current situation. Otherwise, no thanks. Where does all this stuff come from? Like, where do you see it falling off of me somehow? Am I made of snow? What the hell? Jesus Christ. Anyway. Now we can take this effect and we can do a beat repeat with it. Check this out. This is actually really sick. So if we combine these two concepts, we combine this concept with this concept, we can freeze the drums and put it at like a triplet rhythm or something and like build up. You answered me. You feel special? Oh, I'm happy you feel special. Glad I got to do that for somebody today. What's up, everybody? What's up, Sasha? You said hello. I appreciate that. Yeah, that sounds fine. All right. Let's beat repeat the drums. Let's do it at a different interval. We'll do both these. We'll beat repeat them both. Well, let's change their speeds. Let's bring this down to like 48. That sounds crazy. That's not good. One of the problems with changing the speed of the beat repeat is that the crossfader is gonna like, it needs to hit that time value perfectly. I don't think 48's a good one. Let's try and repeat them both. That's not bad. Oh, I like that. That's cool. I think the high pass filter gets a little too high passed. I think 90 was too much. Oh yeah, we don't want that. That's sick. All right, let's check it out. Let's transition to a new part of our song really quick with this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Totally sick. All right, let's put that one down. That's maybe we just move this one over there. Maybe this will be like something else. A reverse, rise, maybe. Maybe rise goes over here. High pass, low pass. What do we do? This is on 5. This is rep, rise. This is just filter rise, fill, rise. And then let's copy fill rise over and delete it here. Save the parts, save the project. Alright, so now we have these 2 riser effects over here. This one is still too high passed. You can actually mess with this one and make it like that like smile pass kind of idea, I guess. This one's really good. Good for dub techno. Hell yeah. I like this template. This is a good template so far. It's very basic. The effects are like not too strong. They're just good. They're just useful. Every single one of them is useful. Digging it. Thank you for subscribing, Maddie Online. Stay online, Maddie. My name's Matt, by the way. Cheers to Matts everywhere. Not all of you, though. Some of you Matts suck. A low pass is just not very useful. Should I even keep it in the templates? Somebody's using it. High pass drums, clean melody, great effect. High pass melody, keep the drums. It's got a really cool vibe to it too. Pretty useful. Riser, great way to transition. Fantastic. Half note beat repeat. Great way to just switch out your hi-hats. Echo throw. Cool way to end a track. Live looper? Well, we have to have a live loop first. Dual live loopers. Here's a really cool idea. So, we have a looper on each one of these buses, right? We have a looper for drums, we have a looper for melody, and we can actually have two scenes, a scene that is a drum loop and a scene that is a melody loop, by doing what we did here, but only applying it to one of the buses. So check it out. We go to our looper. We'll do the drum looper first, since it's called drum when we're on. Set it to 0, silence the drums, and leave this one active, and now we have a drum looper. So right now we're listening to a recording of the drums, so I can switch out my drums to different drums, or my drum bus, or bus 1, however you want to use this. And now I can transition into a new drums with the melody that's been playing live. So I could do like something that dramatically changes these effects. I transitioned my drums over. I had just changed all these mutes out, but it sounds really tasteful and flawless, almost like I have a drum bus or drum groups, which you can't do on Elektron. But I can fake drum groups by having people listen to a recording of the last segment of the drums, and by switching out a group of my drums. Some Fox, Faux, Fod, drum groups. Faux, Fod, P5, Faux, Fod. You can do the same thing with the melody bus. Let's go ahead and do that too. So we set this to 0. We set this to minimum. That's it. Now we're in a recording of the melody, so I can switch out all the melodic elements. I could also do like really weird stuff too if I wanted. Like I could have the melody bus play in reverse if I want, or play pitch down, or chop it up if I want. I could chop it up and do live slicing and stuff like that. I could do all sorts of cool stuff. And it's up to you how you want to use it. I could have that on pattern 2 instead of on pattern 1, a version of the template that chops up my melody bus. Save this. What do we put here? Oh, it's just where scene A is. There we go. Just doing the high pass on the melodic side is actually a really great groove to like just chill out to, I think. Low pass is useful if your OT is an end of chain. I agree, if it's not at the end of the chain. I think this is really useful though, like this. And you can do some manual throws stuff, you know, or some manual effects. And you can reload your part if you want. Oh, I forgot I brought that one up to 145 from our transition. This is the kind of stuff you got to remember. This is the high pass, low pass one. Which I think is not bad. I feel like some noise would be good. Maybe we add some grit with some distortion. I don't hear anything. Oh, it's being filtered out. I can't really add a... I wish I had like some vinyl scratch. I I guess I could add it over here. Oh, that's kind of nice, like this lo-fi effect. Oh, cool. That's actually a good one. That was a good effect. Very tasteful for this kind of music. Nice. Save the part. Save the project. Somebody was asking about saving your parts for your project. Yes, your part saves into your project, but if you reload your project and you've made changes before, no, it doesn't save into it in the same way. And also, you want to save your parts all the time as you're working so that you can use the reload part function whenever you do something you don't like. That's why you save your parts as you're working through your project. That's important. I never use the low pass. I almost want to get rid of it. I know it's just not good at the end of the chain. Maybe low pass becomes this. It just never gets used. It's such a waste. I've seen. Maybe it becomes something like this. Jordo's squeeze filter. This is just a better sounding filter. It's more useful. It's like a mid filter. Ah, it's so much more useful than this. See you later. Mid. For squeeze, SQ, Z. Holy shit, put the Q in there, Jesus. Alright. Banger. Saved my part. Saved my project. I think I'm gonna release this as a template for y'all. I'm gonna make a bunch of effects. This is actually the configuration that I used for a really old template called the Ultimate Effects template, where it had a lot of experimental stuff in it. I think an updated version of that is pretty useful. I like the dual bus concept a lot with the Octatrack. I think the dual bus workflow is extremely useful because having an effect for your melody versus your drums is just so delicious musically. It sounds sometimes awful to have everything run through the same effect if you're doing effects. And also, you shouldn't be using your effects all the time. Effects should only be used in tasteful transitions. We're throwing effects around constantly here because that's what we're doing for the stream. But if you're performing, these effects shouldn't be used constantly. Just definitely not. Like, you don't even need to use them very often. Like, maybe like, I don't know, depends on how many songs you're playing, but use them to transition between moments in your music to create some tension. But it shouldn't be like every, few bars or something you're throwing down effects, unless it's the hyper effects template where you're doing like glitchy beat repeat type stuff all the time, and that's a part of the flavor of the music. I think for this kind of music, effects should be subtle, tasteful, and not overused. I guess that's what I'm going for. Just don't overuse your effects. It doesn't sound good. Sounds like you're I don't know what it sounds like. It just doesn't sound good. Just don't do it. But yeah, let's just really quickly, what we have so far, what we have on the table, the effects that we've built. We built a whole bunch of effects. I hope you learned a bunch about the Octatrack and about the workflow and how to build your own template, because we did it all from scratch in 2 hours, which is my cutoff for stream. So we're gonna end here. But I think we did a pretty good job. We made a cool sounding template that works really well for techno, dub techno, and house. particularly, I would say this is extremely effective for those particular genres. Here's what we got. We got an echo. Sounds nice. We got a half note looper. Sounds pretty good. We have a high pass riser. That's an automated effect using an LFO. Starts at bar 1. Ends at bar 4. Comes down to unity. We have another one that is a clean riser. Starts at bar 1. You use this to bring in elements and give yourself a second to like think. You know what I mean? Like you do these effects and you go, all right, I have 4 bars now for me to pick some stuff. You don't want to like let it loop, but because you know, it depends on your tempo. It could be a really long time. 4 bars might be a long time. Here we go. So we'll transition us over to the next part of the song, or next pattern. All right, we have this high pass, low pass effect. It's like a Lowfi. I think it sounds good. High pass. Classic. Sounds great. A lot of resonance. Sounds nice. Squeeze filter. Kind of a smile pass. Think make noise. That's where I get that name from. High pass drums only. Leave the melody clean. High pass melody. Leave the drums clean. I think this one's really effective. This is a really great breakdown effect. So simple. And then we have 3 loopers independent. We have a drum looper, melody looper, a master looper. Press yes to engage the looper. Bam, starts at bar 1. Recordings. This is our drum looper. This is our melody looper. This is our master looper. And we can do all sorts of cool transitions, or we can chop up those loops live, or we can reverse them or repitch them. Check it out. If we go to like this melody one, and I go to track 8, and I go to my source menu, or I could bring it up an octave. You can do all sorts of weird stuff with this. You can use an LFO, make a warble. I have some effects that I've made that I've never shared how I made them because I just haven't gotten around to making those videos or done it on stream. But I have the glitch filter, which I've never shared. It is because it's a more complex filter to make, but it like randomly just glitches. The audio goes, it like adds these little tape stop sounds like in between while the music is playing, and it filters it, and it pitches, like repitches. It sounds so sick. It's in the Hyper Effects template, I think on part 4 or 3 in the filter section. I think it's on part 4. I think it might be 15. You should check it out. It's one of my favorite effects I've made. I don't actually remember how I made it, so I'd have to look at the template to actually see it, because it requires 2 LFO settings, very specific values to get it there. It's just too complex for me to memorize, but it's a really cool effect. But you can make all sorts of crazy effects. You know, you can get pretty creative on here. There's still stuff for me to explore, honestly. But I really like this layout. I like these sectioned ideas. Looper section, we could have this be a reverse. Watch, this is actually cool. Before we end, let's make a reverse. Let's copy this one, put it here. You have to have a recording first, otherwise this one doesn't work. But you set the source, the rate to -64 on both of these, and now the track will reverse. Right, that's pretty sick, right? Or you could like do a reverse, beat repeat. Oh, Silence. The reason there's silence is because it changes the rate, and because I kept going back and forth. There was a moment where the sample got so short. So this is like the reverse is an experimental effect. Like, you need to know what you're doing, and you can't overuse it. Oh, I know why it's not happening, because I don't have this set on loop. Remember I turned that off? Ah, that's why we want it on. Wow, wish I had thought of that before. Check it out now. Now reverse will work perfectly. It'll just keep looping in reverse. So it's a fun one to do, and then change your music out. Cool. All right, folks. Well, that was a deep dive into the Octatrack. I'm tired. I'm gonna make coffee and maybe take the dog for a walk. Don't really feel like it, but it has to be done. My name is Matthew, aka EZBOT. This has been a live stream on the Elektron Octatrack. Why you want to use a drum bus versus a melody bus. Or use a drum bus and a melody bus as two separate inputs, two separate effects buses, so that you can make discrete effects that affect their frequency spectrum that you're using for these two different types of sounds effectively. It's extremely cool. It works really well. We made loopers, we made beat repeats, we made automated risers, we made filter effects, we made echo freezes, we made reverse effects. We set the template up from scratch. All of this done in a 2-hour period here on the EZBOT channel. And if you would like to learn more, you can visit patreon.com/EZBOT and join the Patreon. You can also join the lessons tier on my Patreon, and I will meet with you once a month and teach you this stuff. You can join the Discord for free. There'll be links in the comments section down below. It is a great Discord to hang out. It's very chill. But you can ask a lot of questions. Not necessarily going to get an answer from me all the time, because there's a lot. It's like almost 4,000 members in there now. But there's so many members in there and so many really useful members that somebody in there is going to have the knowledge that maybe you're missing in that exact moment, and maybe they'll be able to help you. And then you can help somebody else later. Pass it forward. Definitely join that. Public, free, great place to hang, chill, safe place, I would say. So we're very good about not letting dickheads hang out in there for too long. Yeah, if you want to support the channel, patreon.com/EZBOT, join the Patreon, supports me directly. There's affiliate links down below if you want to buy stuff. Gives me a hefty portion of the sale without costing you anything extra. If you want to pick up my performance templates, the coffee.com/EZBOT. Thank you everybody for hanging out, and I hope to see you again next week. If not later this week, but next week for sure. Have a good one, folks.
Thank you.